What's up guys, my name is Ace, and today we're gonna have something quite a bit different from my normal content, and this is potentially a series that I'll end up doing, depending on how well some early episodes are received, and this is essentially creating my perfect CoD, going through element by element, and fine-tuning it exactly how I would like to see it in Call of Duty. Largely because I just love talking about Call of Duty, I love theory crafting things, and I think this would be a fun idea. Now, obviously, this is going to be based on my preferences and my experiences, so it's totally okay if you don't like these ideas or anything. I just thought it would be a fun series to share, since I often have people asking me on stream, like, what do you think of Gunsmith, for instance, which is actually going to be the topic of today's video. Today, I wanted to share my idea of a more optimized Gunsmith system. Something that I feel would be better than the current system that we're seeing in Vanguard. Because even though I like many of the elements of Gunsmith, I think there's room for improvement, and I feel like it's missing something that we saw in previous create-a-class systems. And diving right into it, I think one of the big things that is missing with Gunsmith is there's no longer the feeling of trade-offs. In Vanguard, everybody gets one of everything on their class. So they get a primary weapon with 10 free attachments. There's no trade-offs to gain 10 attachments. You just get 10 attachments for free. You get a secondary with up to 9 attachments on that secondary as well. We get 1 perk from each tier for a total of 3 perks. We get 1 piece of lethal equipment, and we get 1 piece of tactical equipment. And for every one of these items, there's no trade-off to get that item. There's no potential sacrifice to gaining some extra power in any one of these areas, which means every loadout is the same sort of generic style. Obviously, there's some variation within those, depending on people's preferences and their playstyle that they're aiming for, but the general setup is exactly the same, and there's not a ton of room for trade-offs to create more variety. And this is something that I loved and miss about the Pick 10 style system from older Call of Duty games. With the Pick 10 system, it opened up a lot of opportunities to stack heavy in one particular area by sacrificing in other areas. So if I didn't really care for a piece of lethal and tactical equipment, I could sacrifice both of those in exchange for extra attachments on my gun, or in exchange for potentially an extra perk on my class setup. I think this opened up room for so much more variety. Some of my loadouts would be stacked really heavy with a ton of attachments to just make the most powerful gun possible, whereas with other loadouts I may stack heavy on perks instead by sacrificing the number of attachments I have on my gun and maybe also sacrificing my lethal and tactical. With the Pick 10 style system, I think it just opens up so much more room for creativity within our class setups. It gives us full control over where we want the power in our setup to be. Additionally, one major added benefit of a Pick 10 system is back in those days with Pick 10, not everybody was spawning in every single time they respawned with a piece of lethal and a piece of tactical equipment. Many people, myself included, would often choose to give those up in exchange for more power on my gun or more perks in the game, and this had the tendency to lead to a lot less spam of lethal and tactical equipment in the game, which I think improves the gameplay. Now, at the same time, I do think there are some great positives with the Gunsmith system. I think a lot of people really love the added versatility with the Gunsmith system to stack up on up to 10 attachments potentially, which can create some pretty crazy class setups. Plus, it provides more versatility than ever to make a gun perform the way we want it to perform for us. Instead of the attachments providing just a slight modifier to your weapon, with Gunsmith, you can mix and match attachments to make it perform exactly how you'd like it to perform. Plus, when it just comes to the raw aesthetic of the game, I think it's really cool that you can tailor the guns to look the way that you want them to look by swapping out various attachments, even if some of those attachments make the gun look a whole lot worse. I know a lot of people, they love it just for the aesthetic part of it. So this is why my perfect system is a hybrid of these two systems, taking a little bit of the best from both worlds. So let's just lay this out so you guys can see what my ideas are for this system and how a hybrid system could potentially work using Vanguard's class setups as a template. So with my system, we would have 10 points to work with, so just like the Pick 10 system, you can essentially pick 10 items on your class setup. However, one key difference here that I would make is if you choose a primary or secondary weapon, that comes with 3 free attachments that are completely independent of the Pick 10 system. So those 3 attachments are included with the 1 point cost for the weapon that you choose. So in this case, if I choose an MP40, by default, I get 3 free attachments there. As my secondary, I've got a 1911. Again, that's got 3 free attachments on there. So I've only spent 2 out of my Pick 10 points so far. After that, we have our 3 tiers of perks, and by default, we'll just say we pick 1 perk from each tier. So now we're up to 5 out of my 10 Pick 10 points. Then we get a piece of lethal equipment for our 6th point, and a piece of tactical equipment for our 7th point. So this bare bones sort of a setup with my system would leave you with 3 extra points to work with. These 3 bonus points could be spent anywhere you'd like. If I want to stack up on attachments on my primary, I can do that. Each attachment beyond the 3 free attachments will cost you 1 out of your pick 10 points. Or we could go with a wildcard. And my wildcard system is nothing innovative or new or unique. It's basically just the same sort of wildcard system that we saw back in Black Ops 2 and several other games that followed with a similar system. So these wildcards are things like if we want an extra tier 1 perk, we use perk 1 greed, which will cost a point on its own, and then another point for the perk itself. Or we have other wildcards like overkill, for instance, which would allow us to use any gun in our primary or secondary slot, whether that's primaries or secondaries. So you could use 2 secondaries if you wanted to, or 2 primaries, doesn't really matter. Or we could use something like Tactician, which gives us an extra piece of tactical equipment, or Danger Close with 1 piece of lethal equipment. Just the basic sort of wildcards that we would expect with a pick 10 system. And that's pretty much it when it comes to what I feel would be a great hybrid between pick 10 and Gunsmith. With a setup like this, if we wanted 10 attachments on our class setup, you can absolutely do that and you'd still have 2 points to spare. So you could do 10 attachments on your gun with 2 perks from different tiers if you wanted to. Or if you wanted to stack up on 6 perks, for instance, 2 perks from each tier, that would be the maximum. You can't take 3 perks from the same tier, for instance. But if we wanted 6 perks, you could do that while still having 1 point available to spend, presumably, on your primary weapon. And with that primary weapon, you'd have 3 free attachments, but you'd have no availability for any more attachments outside of those 3. And that's just a couple different directions you could take it. Of course, you could go with a more balanced build where you take a little bit of everything out of that. But just in general, I feel like this would open up a lot more freedom with your class setups, and it would provide the option for those trade-offs, where if I don't want a secondary weapon, I don't have to take one, and in sacrificing that, I can take something else. Now with this, of course, there would have to be careful consideration when it comes to how they decide to balance perks and which tiers they'd be placing perks in. Obviously, that would have to be designed around this system. And another thing is, weapon blueprints, at least with the way that I've laid this out, they would have to come with 3 attachments rather than 5 like Modern Warfare or up to 10 in Vanguard. And I don't think that would be an issue at all. I don't think many people buy the blueprints for their attachment setups that they have. Typically, people are buying blueprints because they like the look of the blueprint. In either case, at least on paper, that's my perfect sort of pick 10 Gunsmith hybrid. I think this would play out great in a Call of Duty game. And while this isn't something I'd expect by any means out of an Infinity Ward Call of Duty, I feel like something like this may be well suited to the next Treyarch Call of Duty, which is rumored to be coming in 2024, because Treyarch really seems to like the idea of a pick 10 style system and having wildcards and having the ability to change the entire structure of our class setups. But at the same time, with the recent success of the Gunsmith-style systems, I feel like there's going to be a lot of pressure on Treyarch to have a Gunsmith-style system, so a hybrid system like this I think would be amazing to see in Treyarch's next Call of Duty game. Now, of course, just like I said at the beginning, this is my perfect create a class system for Call of Duty, and a system that I feel would work well. I'd like to hear in the comment section below, what do you think about this idea? Do you think it is something that would work well? Or is there something that you feel is wrong with this system that I suggested? Can you maybe poke some holes in it, or are there just some areas that you're not a fan of? Please let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Also, I am very curious to hear from you guys. Is this a type of series you'd like to see me continue on the channel? I was thinking of maybe going through elements like my perfect Call of Duty map design philosophy, or the perfect way to handle streaks, or quality of life features, or progression and challenges. There's a wide variety of topics that I could cover for this, and I think it would be fun to continue a series like this, but I would like to hear your feedback down below. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.